Good morning and welcome. I'm Brett Stevens. I am the discipleship pastor here, and I'm excited to start this new sermon series with you. You know, you may not realize this, but your life is kind of like this iceberg. You see, you do things, you say things, you interact with people, and you present yourself in life, but many of the choices that you make, the things that you do, the things that you say, are driven by something that people can't see. By things that you may not even realize that you feel, that you believe. These things below the surface of your life rise up to create what people see. But so much of your life is below the surface. These thoughts, these feelings, these worries, these anxieties, these ideas that form the basis of everything that you say and do. And so as we go through this series, which is lined up with the Christian season of Lent, we want to explore our lives, look below the surface to understand who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And this is the heart of the Lenten season, a time to reflect, to understand ourselves. You may be familiar with Lent as a time of fasting. But fasting itself is a practice that is rooted in this understanding. That denying food or something, meat or chocolate or whatever it is that you give up, the giving up of something on the surface is only significant because of what lies underneath. There was a time in my life when I fasted every week. And what I discovered when I fasted every week was that while I obviously would say no to food during that time period, I discovered that other temptations in my life were less powerful. That the practice of saying no to something on the surface developed this underlying ability to say no to the things I don't need. This is the heart of Lent. To explore ourselves, to know ourselves so that we can know God. So my son wasn't here last week, and he was at church camp, which is great. I have a lot of fond memories of going to church camps as well growing up, and I suspect some of you may have done this kind of thing too, those of you who grew up in the church like I did. And I remember specifically a part of church camp that they would do every year. They would have some kind of a speaker come in, and he would, at the end of the week or the end of the weekend or whatever, would give this message talking about Jesus and the sacrifice that he had done for us on the cross. And they would describe it in vivid detail. The pain that he experienced, the agony, the heartache, all for me. And at the end of this description, they would then put out the invitation for anyone who wanted to come and have them pray with you, or maybe they would say the prayer and people could repeat it, but whatever it was, the invitation was there. Now that you've heard, you can believe that he died for you. You can accept that and be saved. And in this sort of heart-wrenching moment, well, of course I responded. And now, I went to church camp year after year. And every year, they would have this presentation. And every year, heart-wrenched, I would go up to pray the prayer again. Or I would repeat the prayer with them again. It wasn't as though I hadn't done it last year. I hadn't forgotten. And my family took me to church, so I had the opportunity to continue to kind of learn and grow and develop. But every year, I wanted to pray this prayer again nonetheless. You see, I don't know exactly what was going on in my mind, but I know that there was a sense of concern. Perhaps I wasn't really saved. Perhaps that prayer I prayed last year wasn't really effective. I mean, look at my life. You know, I haven't changed a whole lot. I still do and say things that hurt other people. I don't really do a lot to follow God. I mean, I go to church, but I don't really pray. And I don't know, maybe I'm not really saved. And so I would pray it again year after year. I suspect those of you who grew up in the church know the feeling that I'm talking about. But I also suspect that those of you who didn't grow up in the church may be very familiar with this feeling too. That there's this offer put out, pray this prayer and you will be saved. And after you do it, you say, well, I don't really feel any different. How do I know? What do I do now? I mean, sure, I prayed that a year ago, but I've made some bad choices since then. Do I need to pray again? How do I know? You might be encouraged to know that you're not the first person to struggle with this. You see, way, way back, the first Christians also struggled with this idea. And so Paul wrote this letter to this group of people who would meet in Rome, to the Christian church there, and he wrote to them about so many things. This is one of his longer letters, and he wrote so many things, but he addressed this very question of how we know. And so let's look here at the text of Romans. And so Paul here, this is in chapter 10, so he's already gone through quite a bit of this letter here. And here he's now turning to this kind of question. He's saying, something that is hard for me personally is that so many of my kin, the Jews, have rejected the message of Jesus. They've heard it, they understand it, or they think they do, but they have rejected it. And he said, really, there's two paths that people have before them for righteousness. There's the path that the Jews are taking, which is the path of doing the works of the law, that they will say, I have this list of instructions and I will follow it so closely that I will be righteous. I will be saved. And then there's this other path, which is the path of faith, and that's what Jesus sets before us. And anyone who says, I'm going down this path, is committing to live this way, that this is how they will earn their righteousness. And he says, guys, this just isn't going to work. And this is what he says after that. In fact, it says, the message is very close at hand. It is on your lips and in your heart, and that message is the very message about faith that we preach. If you openly declare that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is by believing in your heart that you are made right with God. And it is by openly declaring your faith that you are saved. As the scriptures tell us, anyone who trusts in him will never be disgraced. Jew and Gentile are the same in this respect. They have the same Lord who gives generously to all who call on him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Now, this split between Jew and Gentile may not be a significant sort of part of our understanding or experience today, but this can be extended. Right? This isn't just about the Jew and the Gentile. He laid that out because of these two paths of righteousness. But we can say it this way. No matter who you are, no matter where you came from, no matter what your circumstances, your history, your life experience, none of that changes this simple fact. You could be rich, poor. You could be a native person. You could be born here in America. You could be from another country. No matter your skin color, no matter your family history, no matter your background, no matter the choices that you've made, none of that changes that this offer is there. Anyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. And here is the problem that we experience. That's too easy. Surely it can't be that. I must be able to earn it, to deserve it somehow. And so we keep trying and checking. So, like myself as that child, continuing to pray this prayer, the reason I prayed is because I doubted the efficacy of that prayer. I didn't truly believe that this was all it took. I said, okay, I start there, but I've also got to do this and that. Make sure I'm praying often enough, make sure I'm doing the right things and listening to my parents, and I'm going to church often enough, and I'm reading my Bible, and I'm praying. And all of that is this: works of the law. Let me create my checklist so I can prove that I am a good person, that I'm righteous, that I deserve to be saved. But guys, I don't deserve to be saved. And I will never deserve to be saved. There is nothing that I can do, nothing that I will do, nothing that I have done that makes me deserve this. And that's a hard pill to swallow. That's the secret of the path of righteousness by law. It says that I can be and do and earn whatever. I can be good enough. I'm not really that bad. But to come back here to the starting point and say, I can never do it. I'm a broken, hurt, cruel person. I'm sinful through and through, and I will never get better on my own. That is what this means. To say that Christ is Lord, to believe in my heart that his death saves me, means I can't save myself. And this is an important step, and here's why, guys. You see, Paul will go on in this letter to say, the message that he just described for here, the message that's close at hand, that we declare that Jesus is Lord and believe in our hearts. He says, guys, how will someone make that declaration if they're not told? How will it happen? And how will they be told? How will they hear this message if someone doesn't go and tell them? In other words, the starting point for us is to believe and declare that Jesus is Lord. So we cannot be stuck, trapped in this rut of doubting and saying, well, I don't know if I'm saved. That's like you're in a car, right? And you get off the road and you're in a muddy spot and you're just pressing on that accelerator and your car's spinning there and you're not going anywhere. You're stuck in one spot, worrying again and again about the most basic point of your faith. Am I saved? Here is the answer. If you believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the dead, and you declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, yes, you're saved. You may not feel different. Your life may not change overnight, but you are saved. There's nothing else you have to do. You won't ever earn it. You can't earn it, and you don't need to earn it. But I sincerely hope that truth will change your life over time. That you will live and act and grow differently because you believe this. Guys, this is not the end of your journey to say, whew, I'm saved. That's it. I feel so good now. This is the beginning. Once you have made that decision, once you have made that declaration, once you believe in your heart, now begins the rest of your life. There's so much more ahead. So much more to do, so much more to grow, so much more to learn. so we can't stay stuck in this rut of worrying. Today, I want you to know that you can know if you are saved. And it really is that simple. As the worship team comes up to pray this, or to play this last song, let me pray for you. Holy God, I pray that you will speak into our hearts, that as each of us here worry and wonder about what comes next, as we're in this chaotic, strife-filled world with violence and confusion and anger and hate, as we live lives trapped in sin and confused and making mistakes, and we wonder and we worry, Lord, speak to us and call us to something deeper. Put away our doubts and fears about this most basic question of whether or not you will save us. Let us see below the surface to the deeper parts of our lives, to the ways that you want to change us, to heal us, to grow us, to make us new. Holy God, we want to know you. We want to follow you. Will you meet us here today? I pray this in your name, the holy name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.